a lot of comments about the cedar roof.
Uh, what?
I think it touched the nerve.
Did
It's
I?
touching people's wallet. No, not you.
Oh,
I think
okay,
the
all
issue.
right.
Not you. Not you. No, I
Well,
think the issue because it's affecting. There's a lot of cedar roofs in this town, not just in the historic district, but in the rest of the city. And obviously, the historic district rules apply only to the historic district. But the
that's
where I
Cedars.
live, the
That's Cedars.
subdivision has rules about it too, and people are concerned. And I don't know. I'll wait for Rick here. Do my personal story.
Well,
Cedar
you
roof.
show up, but Cedar's crap, man. My last house had that shacky or whatever shingles on it, and that thing, you get one little drop of hail and it cracks it and it molds. It's crap,
And if lightning strikes it,
and you can't get insurance or full insurance, right?
yeah, talk to our friend School about insurance for cedar roof houses or any other insurance agent.
So,
I mean, it's
so they don't like the composite stuff because it doesn't age well. Go to any patio deck.
well. First of all, I guess I'll tell my personal story. So,
Okay.
16 years ago, I was living in Glenview. We had a really bad thunderstorm one night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's one of those ones where it's pouring so hard, you can't even hear anything. It's hitting the roof so hard. And all of a sudden, there's a jolt of lightning outside, but there have been a ton of jolts of lightning. And
Yeah.
it kind of woke me up, and I shook a little, and my wife, which me waking up, woke up my wife, and she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then, at the time, our kids who are now teenagers were little kids. Drew was 2, and Lauren was less than a year old. And kids wake up during thunderstorms and get scared. So he wakes up, he's scared. So I go to his room, and I hear this crackling noise. What is that? And I look out the window, and I see a little glow in the trees. The trees are so there's a reflective glow, and it's kind of orange. And I'm like, where is that coming from? Did lightning strike a tree in somewhere or strike the neighbor's house? I'm like, I better go check on this. So I'm starting to go down the stairs, and all of a sudden my doorbell starts ringing feverishly. And yeah, like a pinball machine. It was one of our neighbors. He says, "Your roof's on fire. I've already called the fire department. So just get out, get everybody out." So we get it. I round up the kids, and grab like our wedding photo album and a couple other personal
Microphone.
belongings. I didn't have a microphone then, but and we went into a neighbor's house. It was pouring rain, and thankfully, combination of the neighbor just happened to be up and saw the whole thing. And so he was right on the ball, called 911, and then told us. And then the pouring rain, it was raining so hard, I think that helped contain it. And the fire department was around the corner of the fire station there. It was right around the corner. So the boys in red were on it right away. They took care of it. So all that got damaged really was a dormer that had to be replaced. Not the end of the world. Fast forward to 2022, 15 years later, right before I moved, a house a block away from me with a very similar design and that cedar roof, bad thunderstorm, lightning strikes it, nobody sees it, nobody's home. So it burns and it keeps burning and it keeps burning till finally they see it outside and it's too late. And by the time the fire, and this made the news, the Channel 2 helicopters were flying over during live shots. The house was a total wreck. I mean,
We'll
had to be
put the
torn
link right
down.
here.
Yeah, it was a really bad. It was a really bad situation. I felt awful. Thank God no one was hurt, but just the impact on that family and everything. And then the subdivision. We didn't. This wasn't a historic area. This was the Glen. But the subdivision, I call it faux historical, where they build things to look like they're historical. But the subdivision finally said, this is crazy that we have these rules about cedar roofs when there's newer materials that look just like it and last longer, are more affordable, and most importantly, if there's a fire, won't burn it quickly. So they changed the rules that any after that um, could be an alternative, and they go through specs and everything like that. And again, this is an HOA, not the Village of Glenview. But take that to here. So that same event could very easily happen here in Lake Forest, where lightning strikes a house, no one's home, no one sees it for a while. Because you trust me, I know from personal experience, you don't always know that lightning strikes. You hear it, but you don't know. And if you're not home, it's even worse. So you know, I get that this is a historic area, and I get that there are rules, and I totally appreciate what the council had to do.
Yeah,
The
let's
other
fast
night
forward to
with
the city
this.
council meeting
Yeah.
that day. What happened?
So it was actually a pretty routine meeting, and I didn't go. I just watched it, but I did watch it at home. I'm like, I'll turn this on. And then they had an update on on the Deer Path Park, looking really nice there, coming along. They had a presentation from Dickinson about their programs like that. So, pretty routine. So one agenda item, one order of new business, and it's an appeal from a family here in town that lives in a historic district. They need a new roof. The house was built in the 20s. The roof is leaking. They've been trying to work with the city on this for some time. Because it's in the historic district, they have to go through the HPC, and the HPC is like, must be cedar, must be cedar.
Or asphalt?
17 or asphalt, because the original roof was asphalt when the house was built in the 20s. They didn't change it to cedar till I think 1964. But they're like, look, we've got something that looks just as good, if not better, than cedar. And it's more affordable, and it's fire resistant, as opposed to cedar. So if God forbid lightning does strike it, or a fire starts somehow else in the house, but can't do it. And the council felt very bad about it. You could tell Alderman Goshgarian had the best remarks, I thought, on this, where he talked about this. This is the HPC is going to need to address this, and the city is going to need to address this because, like I said a minute ago, insurance companies are going to cover this stuff. We don't keep a historic house. We don't say you can't update the plumbing, you can't update the electrical systems, you can't. I mean, there's certain things called safety and stuff. You have to balance that, and I think this product, I think the brand name is Da Vinci, and there may be other products out there similar to that. I think that you'd have the cedar look without having the cedar. So I think it'd be the best of both worlds, and it's safer, it's more affordable. I mean, I'm hearing quotes of like 200 grand for new cedar roofs right now because there is a shortage of it. So I know there was a couple former HPC members who align with our favorite group of crew blockers that came up and spoke at the meeting. And I just think their heads are in the sand. Fine line between historical preservation and hysterical preservation.
Yeah.
And I think the city really needs to address this. I don't know if it's through the staff, if it's through the HPC, however they do it. But I think this family really, unfortunately, got caught up in some circumstances there that.
Well, hold on. They got to accept some of this blame too, because look, they did 2 years of research on trying to find a roof.
Yeah,
and they didn't know they were in a
enough.
historic district. Okay, I get it. I get it. 2 years ago, you could have, when you buy the place, you tell me the realtor doesn't say you're in the historic district,
Yeah, no, I thought about that too when I heard that. Good point. So I think there's a little bit, but I think the bigger picture here, Pete, is, do we really want a beautiful house like this burning down or falling apart? Because
look, when you buy into Lake Forest, it's a historic area. There's a reason why you're buying into it. There's a reason why the prices are up. So buyer beware. But that being said, we've had people on this show that have talked about the HPC 17, striking again. Do you need 17 standards? Because it's like 17, that means you could strike down anything for any reason. So that needs.
I view this as, you remember in the movie The Ten Commandments with Moses holding up? I do. these
These
older folks from
15,
the
whoops, these 10 commandments.
these 20, whoops, 17 commandments that I mean, 17 criteria that we must follow because in 1938, like I said, I love history. I really do. But you have to balance that with practicality and especially when it comes to safety. I mean, my God. I mean, go to Wrigley Field or go to Fenway Park in Boston. Those are two very historic ballparks, beautiful ball. You get the history there, but they've updated a lot of stuff. They don't have the same toilets there from 1908 or when it was 1914 when Wrigley Field was built or whatever year. I mean, you balance history with practicality. And I think this is one of those issues where they need to think about this and take a hard look at it and allow these alternatives. And I get it that you don't want it to look like it's a crappy, cheap roof in a historic area, but
I don't think the person paying for it wants it to look crappy. So,
right, and I think I've talked to a couple of folks who, again, if you don't live in the historic district and you don't live in an HOA that has similar rules, you're free to use these. So there are houses in Lake Forest doing it. And I've talked to some folks who drove around in preparation for this case and looked at them and they couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah. So the HPC, from the people I've talked to about this, look, I didn't know this was an issue till Monday.
Neither did I.
I was at band practice. I come home, I flip on, and what cedar roofs? I know they're crap, but let's see. And sure enough, and then I put a little article together based on
ditty.
Yeah, a little little something out there, trying to get educated on it. And I know a couple of people that went up and spoke, and I talked to them about it. And because they live over there, they're neighbors, so they would have a vested interest. They're like, hey man, that's fine. HPC needs to update a little bit quicker their processes, the technology. They need to look at it. They need to be a little bit more proactive, because I've said this a couple of years ago where there should be certain things that the HPC can look at and say, you know what, this type of home, this type of roof, blah, 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 approved. So you can flip through and pick something that's been approved already versus, an architect putting something together and then playing the game to see if it can go up. Same thing with the roof, the roof technology. What about solar panels? Tesla's got.
Well, funny you say that. Yeah. I got a story about that. So my HOA in Glenview did not only allowed cedar roofs. One day we look out the window and our next door neighbor is putting up solar panels, and everybody's like, "What you can't put up cedar roofs?" And so people started calling the HOA and stuff, and they're like, there was a state law signed, I believe it was by Governor Pat Quinn, that says HOAs cannot prohibit solar paneled roofs because of environment and energy and all that. I don't know. I'm going to plead ignorance here. I don't know if that same law applies to city ordinances. So, HOAs, if anybody living in an HOA wanted to put solar panels, they can't be stopped by the HOA according to this law. But they can. I don't know if that law applies to municipal ordinances.
I had a cedar roof and I had solar panels. I had 3.2 kilowatts up there.
Oh, and you had a huge bill.
Well, no, the feds paid.
Yeah, that's true. But
at least a third of it.
Does it pay for it? Because we looked at it. We did because our old house was almost due for a roof before we moved. And I found a website that you could calculate how much it costs and how much it brings back. And it wouldn't pay for itself for like 25 years. When I did the calculation. So I'm like, screw that. And then I moved, so it didn't matter. The new owners, it's their problem now.
Well, again, Moore's law, the processing power of a computer chip, doubles every 18 months. Same thing happens with batteries now, because look, if you're going to do it to be, cost effective, it's you do it to be off the grid. And if you can store the power in a battery, the batteries are getting cheaper. So again, Tesla, they have their own version of roof tiles that can capture the energy. So I'd be interested to see if the feds because you don't want to have the Fed lawyers going up against you. That could be pretty expensive for the city. But if these people really want to press things, go the solar route because you don't want to be environmentally friendly.
Oh yeah, that's going to really conflict with most of those
The
true
blockers.
blockers who are tend to skew on the liberal side. It's just like
Oh,
how
they're
they.
fun.
You remember everybody wanted the windmills till they were going to put them up in Martha's Vineyard, and like, oh no, not here. So I don't know. I mean,
I
this
had
is
one
tough,
up.
and I don't envy the council or even I mean, Alderman Preslak noted that he used to chair the HPC, so I don't want to paint a broad brush of the HPC here. And they are volunteers, so they do rely on staff, and the staff has got a lot on their plate too. So I don't I was a little off at the two former HPC members going out of their way to come up and like odds of history telling us thou shalt not violate the 17 commandments of historic preservation.
They have worse social personal skills than I do. If you ever watch one of those
You know,
meetings,
and Market Square, I've said this before. Market Square is a historic thing here in this city, and rightfully so. But if you, I don't think the 17 states allow that to be built today. I just, I
Mr.
mean, it's
T screwed it
crazy.
up. Mr. T screwed it up.
Pity the fool.
All for getting rid of Thornbush or whatever that tree is called.
I served ice cream to Mr. T
Did you really?
when I worked here at the Haagen-Dazs in Lake Forest in their high school. Yeah,
Did you pity the fool? So we
he gave me a $5 tip.
what'd you spend it on? So we had that. We had that going on. We had the people coming up, and what I didn't get was you can wrap up. You can make that library look like a saran wrap Jello mold for periods of time.
Well, I mean, construction is construction, Pete. I mean, nothing ever looks good during construction, right? I mean,
So the
the,
appeal.
the Kennedy Expressway has been under construction since it was built. I mean, you know,
Look, I'm
yeah,
trying
and
to
I
be.
think I don't know. Yeah, this family may have to put a tarp up because winter's coming, and I don't know if you can. Well, I guess these roofer guys show up and they can get this stuff done in a day or two. My neighbors just had their roof done a couple months ago, and it took them about 2 or 3 days.
The HPC they're still ruminating on this, and I didn't understand why the appeal is like happening now versus earlier in the year. Look, I'm trying to be pragmatic to see both sides of this. I feel for the family. Uh, I don't feel as much for the HPC. I think that needs to be tweaked a little bit, but there's 2 years to research.